why don't we go ahead and call to order at 12:32 this afternoon? First of all, thank you everybody for making time for the special meeting today. We got a very specific topic to discuss in the 30 minutes we have together. So I'm going to go ahead and start us off with item B. So could I have a motion to approve the proposed change order 174R in the amount of $1,313,753.43?
So moved.
Motion. I'll second.
All right, and then we'll open this up for discussion.
All right, Meg, you want me to go?
Yep, you're up, Russ.
Thank you, everybody. The main reason we are here to discuss this is the scheduling of the ordering of the bleachers. If we don't get the order in like today, we could be on delayed for the bleachers to take place sometime next fall. Because every high school or everybody who's ordering bleachers is doing this to get them done for next summer. So there's little to no disruption to the end of the school year, beginning of the start of the school year. So that's the reasoning for the special meeting. Chris Nigro from Michaelucci talked with the supplier. They basically said this is a drop dead deadline. Otherwise, we could be looking at doing this work during the football season next year, which would not be conducive to that season. So we vetted this. We did, if you remember, we did an ad service for TSKP back in March. Gone through since about August. The plans came in end of August, going through the field changes and what can work with the proposed change order. They got two options for bleachers. The one option was over $100,000 less expensive, meeting the same criteria, same number of seating. Back and forth through the, reviewing all the plans, the pricing, and this is to replace the existing bleachers, basically double the size of the current bleachers, new press box, new data, new power, everything to get us up and running for $1,313,753.43 is the cost of the change order coming out of the owner's contingency. And after this change order, we'll still have $2.5 million in contingency on the owner's side for the remainder of the project. And we've gone through, as I said, there were a couple things in there. We took advantage of some cost savings, excuse me, that they proposed and got us to this price where we're at today. So with that, I'll open up for any questions. Yeah, I apologize. We sent it to the decision-making group. They reviewed it and okayed it. The one thing that we got to talk about is our last meeting with Bob Selmer at the state said he felt it would be eligible for reimbursement. We have he asked a handful of questions. We provided that to him last week. We're waiting to hear back from him if he has any comments on the information based on the costs and a breakdown of different costs that he specifically detailed. Specific details he wanted in the cost. So best case scenario is we get a 30% reimbursement. Worst case scenario is we don't get reimbursed, but we're probably looking at least 15% because the bleachers are mentioned in the ed specs. That's what Bob Selmer's first question was. So that's where he originally agreed. I thought that it would be 30% eligible. So I think we're going to at least get 15 and we're going to push for the 30. So that's where we're at. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a question. I cannot remember even remotely what was originally in the budget for bleachers in the grandstand area.
0.
Okay.
So this was an add-on. If
Right.
you remember, I brought this up and broached this subject that I don't know, about a year ago, maybe roughly, maybe 10 months ago.
Yeah.
To talk about it based on where we were financially with our leftover contingency money. And part of the reasoning is, so there's 1.3 million. If we didn't do it through the project, it would come out of our capital account. And basically it would take the capital for both the board and the town 1 full year to pay for this, if it
Right.
did go to a bond. So that's why, given the financial status we're in, felt it was the best to do it through the project. And then we don't disrupt any of that capital funding through the budget process.
Right. And then so looking longer term along those lines with other possible needs or wants that we were kind of waiting to see, is there anything else that we're considering or that have come up that maybe are next on the list? Or
We talked with Bob Sommer about replacing the trap. And because it's not mentioned in the ed specs, it's not eligible for reimbursement. So we haven't pursued that, just given the fact that, there's no reimbursement. Didn't feel like that we should pursue that.
right. So the ed specs drive that.
Correct.
So
So if you're-
nothing that, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, that's it.
Nothing large like this coming up. We're still, we still have change orders out there that are outstanding that we're still working on through the punch list and stuff that have already taken place. So we're still, with the forecast that we have at about 750,000 in construction contingency, construction manager contingency, our, excuse me, in the forecast for the owner's contingency, we're still in a very good spot to give back money to back to the town, that we won't have to bond. But there are items that are coming in from the board, different as they've been in school now for 2 months, 2 solid months. That they're, hey, we could use this. Hey, how about if we could do that? So there's still some other things that are going to be coming up that are going to be needed.
And Megan, I can't remember, and I apologize, but we have a separate contingency for the central office building.
That's correct.
Yeah, good. Okay, yeah.
Yes. And the other piece to this, I just want to mention, tacking on to Russ's comments there is if you remember, this was part of our original conversations when we were talking about the school overall. And because it was in the ed specs, we need to take that into consideration. A lot of conversations, I think, on ADA accessibility that you see here in the description and how important that was overall to the efforts of the project. But through our value engineering efforts, that was one of the reasons why this work was stripped out. And now we are revisiting, obviously, based on the overall need and what's been defined in the ed specs to say, okay, based on where we are financially, can we bring this back into our scope of work?
And one other thing I would like to mention, Meg, is this price here takes into all cost savings because the contractors are all here on site right now. For us to put this out to bid as a separate project in the future, costs are going to go up because that's what things do. And to put it a separate bid out, it's going to cost us more time and effort to create the bid documents, bid it, and then I don't think we're going to get the same savings that we see here on this cost that we would if we did it in 2 years or 4 years, because you're putting out it as a standalone project. And people would have to mobilize in, take care of, get everything in place while they're already here now. So there's a cost savings associated with doing it at this point in time as well.
What was the timing? I mean, just saying in the context of pulling this meeting together, Ted, weren't we on track to have this done over the summer anyways, or no?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The biggest thing was, to be honest, I didn't think it was going to take us this long to get to this point from March.
Yeah.
Everything took time, and then it took a lot of back and forth over the last 4 or 5 weeks of what actually could work with the proposed plan and proposed change order. So once we got all that finalized and all those details worked out, that's why we're here now. And with that conversation, and when I spoke with the supplier myself about 5 weeks ago, and he let me know then that, hey, time's getting tight. There's only so many bleacher suppliers throughout the country.
Yep.
And it's like, you know, like shared equipment. It's great on paper, but every time you want that equipment, that's the time everyone needs it. That's what's happening here is everyone's putting their orders in to get into the queue. We want to try and make sure we have all the materials here prior to, you know, June. So that at the middle of June, we can get started right after graduation takes place.
Yeah. No question. I just figured, I figured it was in my back of my head that we were tracking there anyways, that's, but.
Yeah, but we were tracking there, but
Yeah.
given the time, Chris, that it took everything to get into place.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have had to have the special.
No, that's good.
A month
Yep.
ago.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Well, I'll just add a couple comments. One, this is a great value add that you've brought, Russ, to this whole process in tracking this and leading it. It's deeply appreciated. And I think you've all along shared the compelling reasons why we do this. The one other one that I'll just specifically add that I think drives what became of those ed specs is that every 10 years we've got to do this accreditation through what is it, NASDAQ? And
Yes,
if this is not work that's accomplished, it's going to come up again and it will become an issue and a priority. And so again, going back to what's that source that's driving all of this, that's not going to go away if we avoid this. So I also appreciate too, Rusty, you just pulled out another number that's important that will be going back to the town, and that's the construction manager contingency. So all told, at the present moment, sort of around today, I think are we just shy or right around the mark of about 5 million?
Yeah, we're right there.
Yeah. So I just think this is brilliant, and again, another value add of what you brought to this. So thank you.
Well, and another brilliant part is that it's subject, at least theoretically, some reimbursement, which is fantastic.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Again, Russ, you got to keep asking for more money.
I'm good with it. Let's go. I'm good. And the one thing, as Meg mentioned, with the ADA, so it's going to have a ramp, a switchback ramp on it, which is sort of anyone that, in wheelchair attendees will sit right up front in the front row of the bleachers and be able to see out over into the, whether it's a football game, a lacrosse game, field hockey game, or graduation, they'll be up elevated as opposed to putting them, putting the grandparents and whoever on the track and not being able to see anything. So I think, to me, that's one of the biggest changes and improvements that we can make with this.
Hey Russ, it's Johnny. One quick question. What do you remember off the top of your head how much the design was for this?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll get that.
Well, and while you find that, everybody had good comments. I'm not going to repeat them. But just to keep in mind, I've had the pleasure of sitting through a couple of budget sessions with the council. And when you're looking at capital spending and projects with all the needs that the town has, whether it's fire stations or, the elementary schools that we've heard a lot about ventilation and HVAC, this is going to fall very low on the totem pole. So as a standalone project, just getting this passed may be difficult. And we're reopening it after the site's been buttoned up after a major construction. I know that it's not a perfect scenario. We'd love to know what we're getting for reimbursement at this point. But we have spent money to design this. It will be more expensive later. And so I do think that and I kind of struggled because, I wanted to be under budget, right? If you guys have heard that for the last few years from me. But I do think this is a good expenditure. And I think the project that if we don't do this, we will regret it.
So Johnny, the design fees for the grandstand bleacher was $35,900 that we've added to the project, on top of the 1,313. So we're at 1,334, say 135.
I mean, I could go back to our OCR report
that identified those bleachers as not being ADA compliant, which then went into our statement of needs, which then went into the ed specs. So, you know, this is just, and we have our NEASC visit in November of 2025. So that's coming up. And this will just really excellent timing when it comes to that visit as well for our accreditation.
Kathy, this has been on the list for a long time, right?
It sure has, yes. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Any other points of clarification anybody wants to make sure we get out on the table before we vote? All right, are we all set?
Mhm.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All
Aye.
right. Opposed? All right, motion passes.
All right, thank you, everybody.
It's great. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Russ.
everybody.
Thank you.
We appreciate all the work. Kate, thank you again for taking the time today. That really makes a difference for us for timing overall. So let me just do a quick motion to adjourn. So could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we will adjourn at 12:49 then. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend.